Hey guys, what's going on? It's T-Carp for the next reading of The Truth Denied, my father, Scott Carpenter's rendition of the Sasquatch Genome Study. We're in Chapter 3, and Chapter 3 is The Real Deal. And if you guys haven't checked out the last couple chapters, you can, and you can go back on it and look at the playlist and whatnot. So guys, we're going to get right into it. So Chapter 3, The Real Deal. The Erickson Project submitted 6 samples in the spring of 2010 upon joining the Sasquatch Genome Study. The results from these samples would change the complexity and the direction of the study. The team took 3 samples sequencing a single nuclear DNA or nuDNA sequence from each. The nuclear DNA sequences were within human ranges. However, when these single sequences were compared to GenBank is a database of millions of DNA profiles, both animal and human, no match was found. These 3 nuclear DNA sequences did not match any of the sequences. This was an earth-shattering discovery for the team. GenBank has the nucleotide sequences for more than 100,000 distinct organisms, containing over 244 billion nucleotide bases in more than 203 million sequences. The team now realized that they were dealing with a paradigm-changing study. Not only could they prove the existence of the Sasquatch/Bigfoot, with this data they could prove it scientifically via DNA. The critics can claim that footprints, video, and other evidence provided as proof for the existence of Sasquatch or Bigfoot can be hoaxed. It is impossible to fake the DNA. The team realized that it would need to bring on additional scientists, genetic experts, forensic specialists, along with doing blind studies by contracting reputable laboratories to test the current and future samples. The team also concluded that more samples were needed from diverse geographic locations. During the summer of 2010, the additional team members were brought into the project. It was now time to let the world know about the study. In August 2010, Dr. Ketchum and David Pilates went on the national radio show Coast to Coast. The request went out for quote-unquote new samples, hair, tissue, bone, etc. David also explained in his blog the appearance on the show and its purpose. NABS would first like to thank George Knapp from Coast to Coast AM for an outstanding segment with David Pilates and Dr. Melba Ketchum the morning of 8/31/2010. George's professional demeanor, preparation, and interview skills make him the consummate professional. Thank you, George. NABS is starting to move more into the mainstream of media and public view. You will start to see us taking a prominent role on issues involving Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and wildman issues. The promises we made 6 years ago are coming to fruition, and we will celebrate many of those with you in the coming weeks. On August 30th of 2010, NABS Executive Director David Pilates was on Coast to Coast AM with George Knapp. This was David's 3rd appearance of Coast to Coast, and thanks to Mr. Knapp, NABS released some interesting information regarding their DNA study. We announced that we have been working for the last 2 years with DNA Diagnostics, and they were our partners on a comprehensive DNA study of the Bigfoot Sasquatch genetics. The director of the lab, Dr. Melba Ketchum, was interviewed the second hour of the show and answered questions about the research, DNA, and the obstacles incurred by the study. She explained that she has a scientific team assembled of other noted PhDs and they will culminate their research with a scientific white paper submission to a journal and a press conference. The application of DNA and genetics to Bigfoot wasn't a possibility in the 60s and 70s. It's the new breed of research that must push the limit of scientific knowledge, open the minds of the closed thinker, and ask science to take a hard look at this topic. NABS is presently working on the other groups to further the DNA study and looks forward to continued success through mutual cooperation. The idea of mutual cooperation is something that rarely has existed in our Bigfoot world. It appears that many have believed that they can go alone and find the answers without creating hard-working frontline researchers, without acknowledging the success of prior groups, and without developing synergy inside our arena. That thinking is destined for failure. This may be one of the reasons why little research has been accomplished in the prior 40 years. Why hasn't the work of the Haas group and others with similar hypotheses been publicized? Why has the older regime in the Bigfoot world continued to discredit and attempt to embarrass groups with similar hypotheses? Find a Bigfoot group that has a positive synergy, a definite plan, and a professional demeanor, and align closely with them. Success will follow. DNA Diagnostics and their director, Dr. Melba Ketchum, have requested that NABS be the organization that screens new samples that are directed to their lab. Please note that Dr. Ketchum disputes this claim by David Pilates. NABS has no interest in monopolizing this research. We always can use new samples, hair tissue, blood, bone, etc. If you have any Bigfoot, Sasquatch, wildman samples that you believe would benefit the program, please contact NABS. We will give you a specific identification code, review your sample, and forward it to research purposes. We will keep you informed of what is occurring with your sample. We, meaning several groups, are on the brink of a major discovery in the Bigfoot world. We look forward to hearing from you and reviewing the evidence. Source: this was from the NABigfootsearch.com, and this was the blog number 99. In October of that same year, David Pilates and Dr. Melba Ketchum went on the quote-unquote Bigfoot Busters on Blog Talk Radio. The request was made once more for the Bigfoot samples. In this interview, Dr. Ketchum also described how she became involved in Bigfoot DNA testing, including how it developed into the Sasquatch Genome Project. This is a quote from Dr. Ketchum. Quote, "I have a curious mind, and I'm a renegade, and I'm not a PhD. That's probably most of it. I'm old enough that I predate the latest trends in molecular biology. I had to learn it the hard way, from scratch. We started getting samples back about 95, starting with some of the unknown feces samples. We had some from Texas parks and wildlife, and we had some from people that would send in and want to know what animal left this DNA here. So we routinely did species identification. About 1995, we started getting the occasional person calling, 'Oh, we believe we've got a Bigfoot.' And I said, 'Oh, okay, whatever. If you want it tested, we'll test it.' And for years, we got nothing but horses or raccoons or any number of different, creatures. I didn't take it seriously, but I would test it nevertheless. I try to be open-minded and not closed-minded, and I think that's the veterinarian in me because we're kind of a different breed. So 2 years ago, in the spring, we had a couple of samples submitted, and actually David Pilates was one of the submitters. That sent some hair to us and Destination Truth. It was a show. I was so tired of dealing with these things. I knew that they would be close enough to ape or human, that they would run on the human markers if they were searching, or if there was something worth looking into. And so I got to the point that I would screen things for human markers, and if they tested out, fine. If they didn't, it would just pass it on and say, nope, not what you're looking for. Well, we had 2 samples, and those 2 samples actually turned into something a little bit different. And I was foolish. I wasted a lot of the DNA because I wasn't believing I was going to get anything. We did get something interesting results, and they were just, it was different. Results from a different type of testing though. So we couldn't combine the 2 and go anywhere with it. And like I say, we didn't have enough DNA to continue on with it. As a result, we just had to let it go. But it led me to believe that there might be something worth looking for. Shortly after Destination Truth aired, we started receiving a huge number of samples from all over the country. In fact, all over North America. So we were knee-deep now in this huge undertaking. The host question was, quote, "You said on the Destination Truth TV show that the sample, quote, did not match any known primate or anything in the large database she checked." Dr. Ketchum says, quote, "Not exactly. That's not exactly what I said. Things got kind of spliced. Basically, we did get some differences that didn't blast in GenBank. They were very subtle differences, but there were a couple of bases difference that would normally blast in GenBank. But once again, it was only a primary run, and there was only 1 sample in that, and there wasn't much else I could do with it because we used up the DNA. Most of that hair did not have root material on it. It's very hard to get. One peculiar thing that we found about what we believe to be Sasquatch hair is that it does not want to give up its mitochondrial DNA very easily in the hair shaft like other creatures. Even human is easier to get the DNA out. And there's been a raging debate amongst me and my team as to whether it's actually inhibitors that's causing it, or whether somehow the DNA just doesn't make it into the hair shaft like it does in other species. So we have to have good rooted hairs. We have to have hairs that have been basically pulled out by the roots in order to get good DNA for our purposes. After these public appearances, the samples began to flood in from all over the United States and Canada. The team was now on their way, screening, processing, and sending samples out to blind testing at other laboratories. And that's the end of Chapter 3, The Real Deal. Guys, thank you so much for this video of The Truth Denied, my dad's rendition of the Sasquatch DNA. This is on the Scott Carpenter YouTube channel and the Sasquatch Awareness Project. For those that say they want DNA evidence, guys, this is where you're going to find it. Again, Dad's rendition of it. This all can be found. The actual study that can be looked up was published to the Journal of Advanced Multiplanetary Exploration in Zoology. Let me get you the actual, or the official name of the study is the Novel North American Hominins Next Generation Sequence of 3 Whole Genomes and Associated Studies. And so you guys can check that out. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you want to get in contact with me, you can email me at tcarp, or tcarp1616 at yahoo.com. Thank you guys so much. Again, God bless.